Hey, what's up guys? My name is Sal, and this is another expedition log. The Echelon Mall from Voorhees Township, New Jersey, used to be a staple among the community. Everyone that I've spoken to about this mall, from family members to locals when I was researching and filming the place, they all spoke of this with such reverence. But there was also a tinge of regret in their voice that the mall wasn't what it used to be. Today, it's the Voorhees Town Center, and while it's half of what it used to be, I still think it's a fantastic mall. So come take a walk with me, and let's explore the Voorhees Town Center. But first, the Commodore VIC-20 sold at Macy's.
When you pinged your first pong, you were being prepared for something. When you ate your first power pill, you were being prepared for something far greater. Because those game machines were crude versions of computers. And what you were being prepared for was a real version of a computer, the Commodore VIC-20. Games like you've never seen before. But more important, true computing, the Commodore VIC-20. A real computer for the price of a toy.
The Commodore VIC-20 is available at Macy's.
In 1939, Rogers and Jeanette Smith bought 200.1554 acres of land in Voorhees Township, New Jersey for a flat $1,000. They used the land to build a small airport with 3 dirt runways, which Rogers illuminated with flares. The airport was a small operation used for crop dusters and small charter planes. Rogers also worked on planes, and sometimes he would use Gene's aluminum dishes and pans for brakes on his plane. In 1950, while Rogers was taxiing 2 men to Ohio by plane, the aircraft went down, killing all 3 men. Gene was confident, however, that Rogers was murdered when one of the men in the back seat turned crazy. The bodies were recovered near the wreck, but no proof was found to support homicide. Shortly thereafter, Gene leased out the land to a friend. But in 1962, she sold the land for $1,000 an acre to one of the greatest planned community developers, pioneer of the Great American Mall, Jim Rouse.
Friday and Saturday, play register roulette at Boscov. We ring up extra savings of 5 to 50% on almost everything you buy. Take 30 to 60% of all ladies' outerwear. Plus, register roulette savings of 5 to 50%. 60% off cotton flannel suit sets. 40 to 50% off almost all men's sportswear and activewear. 30% off ladies' bras. Friday and Saturday at Boscov.
The Rouse Company finished construction on the Echelon Mall in 1970. The mall was named after the airport built by Rogers and Jeanette Smith. At the mall's dedication, the original anchors were Strawbridge and Clothier, J.C. Penney's, and Litt Brothers. In 1976, construction on Phase 2 was finished, which saw the completion of a new wing for the J.C. Penney's. In 1977, Litt Brothers shuttered and was replaced by Gimbel's department store. Gimbel's was closed 9 years later in 1986 and replaced by Stearns. 4 years after this, in 1990, Stearns closed and was replaced by Boscov's. In 1992, one of the coolest storefronts came into this mall. It was called Exhilarama. Now, as a part of this channel, I'm going to introduce something called side quests. Accompanying the expedition log will now be side quests, which are accompanying pieces of raw footage, promotional footage, or even footage that I shot of places surrounding the mall or a place that I visit that can lend more insight into its history or just the overall aesthetic language of the place that I visit. So you'll see a pop-up and you can click this to see the promotional footage that was played inside the Exhilarama at the time that it was standing. Now again, it was built in 1992, but it only lasted a few years and it closed in 1996. This building, it also housed a small general cinema. It was a movie theater. From what locals have told me, it was pretty disgusting. It was small, it was gross, but it was cheap, and for the most part, they did enjoy going. This building, housing the Exhilarama and the general cinema, it was demolished to make room for more parking. In the same year, in 1996, the Strawbridges was acquired by the May Company, which was later rebranded to Macy's. A couple years after this, in 1998, Sears was built alongside the JCPenney's. But it only lasted a couple of years. Even contractors that worked on this place, they've been quoted saying that the paint was still wet when they closed down, and they were all lamenting about how it was such a brand new building that later went abandoned. So right now we're looking at the old Strawbridges, which later became Macy's, and to our right, that was the JCPenney's wing. In 2002, negotiations began between the Rouse Company and Priet for a gigantic sale. Priet decided to sell off 7,244 apartments across 15 wholly owned and 4 half-owned complexes spanning 7 states. The sale yielded Priet a net gain of $420 million. They then went back to Rouse and cut a deal which included $225 million in cash purchases, $285 million in carried mortgage debt, $38 million in Priet operating partnership costs, and $7 million in transaction fees. The total deal was for $555 million. What did Priet get for this? They got 6 malls. The Exton Mall in Exton, Pennsylvania, the Gallery at Market East in Philly, the Cherry Hill Mall in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, the Moorestown Mall in Moorestown, New Jersey, Plymouth Meeting Mall in Pennsylvania, and the Echelon Mall in Voorhees Township, New Jersey. Hey, Daphne. So the entire deal that Priet cut, they paid out $582,908,193 for 6 malls. Of that money, $16,501,342 were dedicated to purchasing the Echelon Mall. When they did purchase the Echelon Mall, it had a 41.2% occupancy, and the total sales were at $225 per square foot, so it was not doing well. Shortly after the purchase, in 2003, the JCPenney's shuttered. On July 14th of 2004, Priet announced plans to construct a Walmart at Echelon. Then, in early 2005, the occupancy fell below 25%, and the Voorhees Township Committee challenged Priet on the Walmart as the community disapproved, so the project was canceled. On September 14th of 2005, Priet published a plan in their quarterly earnings report to rebrand and redevelop the Echelon Mall to a new town center. Groundbreaking was begun on January 30th, 2007, starting with the demolition of the abandoned Sears. Half of the existing mall, including the abandoned JCPenney's and Sears, with their corresponding concourses, were to be demolished to make way for an outdoor shopping and dining boulevard with 425 apartments. In December 2007, the mall demolition and renovations were complete. Then, in early 2008, the construction on the boulevard for the restaurants and the grocery store and the 425 apartments, that was completed. It cost Priet $150 million to demolish 477,308 square feet of mall and to build the boulevard and all of its components, and to renovate a small portion of the mall. Thus was born the Voorhees Town Center. Now, before the renovations and rebranding, the mall proper, with its anchors, had 1,127,308 square feet of gross leasable area. Afterwards, 650,000 square feet. The mall was neutered. It's always depressing to see that much space chopped off from a mall. It was cut in half. So, as an attempt to try and cheer everyone up, let's take a look inside the Boscovs just for a brief second at some amazing neon. In 2015, rumors began circulating that the Macy's company would be closing stores across the country. This actually spooked a lot of mall owners, and furthermore, it prompted investors to act quickly on some of these places. Mason Asset Management and Namdar Realty Group made an offer to Priet to buy the Voorhees Town Center for $13.4 million. Priet, who were panicked by the rumors about Macy's, accepted the deal. After the sale, in 2016, Macy's actually announced that they would not be closing the Voorhees location. Later that year, in August of 2016, Macy's did announce that they would be closing 100 stores across the country, of which the Voorhees Town Center was included. The move by Macy's saved the company an estimated $550 million, but this was at the behest of almost 7,000 jobs being cut. At this point, the Voorhees Town Center is not doing so well. There are a ton of vacant storefronts, and it's only got one anchor. As far as Macy's is concerned, I'm sure that the executives had a reason behind what they did, but I do think that it was a bit of a scumbag move to cut nearly 7,000 jobs. Sure, $500 million is a ton of money, but I would rather see people at work. So even though the Voorhees Town Center has demolished 2 of its anchor stores, it still has 1 remaining, even though it's abandoned. But I was able to gain access to this building, and I would like to take all of you inside. Exploring the inside of an abandoned structure, or even a mall that's just so dead, it's one of the most cathartic experiences you can have. And the first term that comes to mind is a term called megalophobia. It's this uneasy, unsettling feeling when you're around big things, when you're around giant things. Most of the time, people afflicted by this, when they stand next to a skyscraper, they get kind of uneasy. Now, when I'm inside of a giant mall that is nearly uninhabited, I get a really weird feeling. I get an uneasy feeling because it's so huge and massive and overwhelming, but I also get this sense of calmness because we have things like this up here. You'll see this chandelier in a second. There's just these beautiful pieces of brightness and color and happiness, but there's also a sense of sadness that surrounds them because nobody can see these things anymore. Look at that chandelier. Somebody spent so much time designing that, and nobody will see it again. Similar thoughts cross my mind about other malls. One perfect example is the Burlington Mall right up the street, and now that it's shuttered and locked up, nobody can see the Xenos Frodakis statue of the boy riding the elephant. That's closed down to the public now. There is an example at the Schuylkill Mall where the famous coal miner statue that was there, they moved that statue to a museum. And I can only hope that they do the same with Burlington, because there are these amazing pieces of art in malls around our country that the public deserves to see. In the news recently, I heard that the Landmark Mall in Alexandria was going to repurpose the Macy's there as a homeless shelter. Personally, I think that's fantastic news because A, the community surrounding that mall approved this, and that shows that they're just awesome people. But B, it's an awesome repurposing of a giant space that's just otherwise sitting there not doing anything. And here we have an example of a space that's just sitting there.
like towers over Manhattan. Fits into a shopping bag. And is only at Macy's. Snoopy. He's cuddly. He's playful. And he's yours at all Macy's. A $32 value. Yours for just $10.95 with any $50 purchase or more.
So when I went down here, I didn't have my big floodlight, so there really wasn't much that I could have seen, but I did try and get some shots where there was some light peeking through. One of the main things you see and experience when you're inside of an abandoned place like this is this smell. And if you look at the carpet, it's just completely stained, and I'm pretty sure that's just moisture that's settled in, and the overwhelming smell is just mildew and stale. It's just stale. But I really, really hope that they don't knock this place down and that they find a way to repurpose it and to do something more laudable than just letting it sit and rot like this, because this place deserves better. So once again, as it stands, once the Macy's here closed down in 2017, it left just the Boscovs, which is the sole anchor. And I really hope that this mall makes it, because as a kid, I've been to this mall and I have a lot of family that worked here, that shopped here. And I just hope that it makes it, because it's a pretty awesome place. Thank you guys so much for the support you've been showing me. We're about to reach 400 subscribers, and that's awesome because you guys are really supportive, and I'm getting some awesome comments and some really good ideas for future videos. If there's something that you liked, please leave a like and subscribe, because I have a ton more content coming. And if there's something you didn't like, I'd love to hear from you, because I learn from you and I want to make better content for you. So stay tuned. I have an awesome, really special mall coming up next. It'll be out next Friday. Take care, everybody.